McKenna is a great babysitter. She makes $8 an hour. Matea babysits as well and makes $15 an hour. Matea works 24 hours each month. How many hours does McKenna need to work in order to earn as much money as Matea earns in a month? So the first thing we should do is unpack our problem. So we have two people here. We have McKenna, and she's a great babysitter, and she makes $8 an hour. Okay. We have Matea, who babysits and makes $15 an hour. We know that Matea works 24 hours each month. We don't know how much McKenna works, but it says here, how many hours does McKenna need to work in order to make as much as Matea in a month? So for the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find out how much Matea makes in a month. We know everything we need to know to figure out how much money Matea makes in a month. Matea, we have how much she makes per hour and how many hours she works. That's the same thing as saying she works 24 hours each month, and each time she works, she makes $15 an hour. So to figure out how much she makes in the whole month, we would just need to multiply those numbers, okay? So first thing we're going to do is 5 times 4, which is 20, and then 5 times 2 plus our 2 up there. So 5 times 2 is 10, 11, 12. Then we're going to multiply 1 times 4, which is 4, and 1 times 2, which is 2. We already used the other 2 before, so we should have crossed it out before, right? Now, you'd add these together. 0 plus nothing is 0. 4 plus 2 is 4, 5, 6. 2 plus 1 is 3. So this means that Matea makes, we'll actually say earns, $360 each month. Okay? All right, so back to our question here. So we know that Matea makes $360 per month. The question is asking, how many hours does McKenna need to work in order to earn as much money as Matea earns in a month? So we know Matea earns $360 each month. We know that McKenna makes $8 an hour, but we don't know how much she works. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the amount of money that we know Matea makes, 360, and we're going to divide that up into $8 increments, because basically what that means is we're saying we want to know how many times McKenna will have to earn $8 until she finally earns $360. So really, what we're asking is, how many groups of $8 are in $360? That's where a lot of these division problems can sometimes get a little tricky, is try to think about it as how many groups of 8 are in this 360. Each night she works, she makes $8. So each night is a group of $8. How many nights of work, how many groups of $8 are in this 360? So we're going to take this 360, imagine it like you're dividing it into groups of 8. How many 8s are inside this 360? Okay, so we'll take 360 divided by 8. Whenever you're dividing something, you're taking the total amount and you're putting it into groups of this number. And how many groups is what you're going to figure out, okay? So this is partial quotients or Big 7 strategy. when you have big numbers like 360 divided by a smaller number like 8, try to just for 1 second pretend like this number doesn't exist. 8 times what gets us close to 360? Well, I know that 8 times 4 is 32. So that would mean 8 times 40 would give me 320. So don't let these big numbers throw you off. Just try to think about it as like breaking apart that number into something a little bit more manageable that you know, okay? So we'll make this 360 again. So now, and I'm actually going to highlight our quotients as we go along. Our quotient here is 40. 8 times 40 gets us close to 360, pretty close, right? 320 is very close to 360. So I'm going to write 320 down here. I'm going to subtract. 0 minus 0 is 0. 6 minus 2 is 4. 3 minus 3 is 0. So now 40. Oh, I know this one. This is 8 times 5 gives me exactly 40, right? Oops. Don't know what happened there. Okay. So then 40 will go down here, and then we've reached our goal with our partial quotients, and this middle area here is down to 0. That's always your goal here, right? And if you do have a number left over, that's a remainder, which I'll talk about in another video. Our other quotient over here is 5. So you'd add 40 and 5 now, and that's 45. So that means that McKenna will need to work 45 hours to make as much money as Matea, which is $360 a month. Okay. You see how we answered it in a complete sentence? Remember, story problem, story answer. We'll highlight this in a whole new color. Make sure you make your answers nice and clear for your teachers. It's really helpful for us when we see it really clear. Okay, if you have any questions or want to see anything else, leave me a note in the comments.